Hello, I'm Kelly Wilde, tranny tragic from Barnet, Hertfordshire, about 10 miles north of London. Now, why on earth would I refer to myself as a tranny tragic? Well, it's impossible for me at 78 to look glamorous or sexy, and so I wear simple clothes, simple t-shirt, bra, short skirt, sissy knickers, little bit of bling here and there. That'll do me. There's still a great deal of confusion about the difference between a transvestite and a transsexual. A transsexual is someone who feels she's a woman trapped inside a man's body. I'm lucky, I have none of those sort of problems. I'm just a bloke. I'm a bloke who likes dressing up in female clothing. I'm a crossdresser, although I prefer the Italian version of that word, transvestite. Well, looking in the camera, it's probably the other way around. Transvestite. Crossdresser. That's me. I'm perfectly happy with my male genitalia. Wouldn't mind a bigger dick, but it still works. Mustn't grumble. How come? I have no idea. Actually, that's not quite true. I do have a few clues. See, as a young boy growing up in London, I went to an all-boys school. I wasn't allowed anywhere near girls. And I noticed when I was about, 14 years old, that the girls in the school next door that I could see through the chain rail fencing, the girls were growing these little bumps. I became interested. You could say I became attracted. Not only that, around about the same age, I used to collect the photos and the illustrations out of my mother's Woman's Weekly magazines. You know, there'd be all these photographs of pretty women in their brassieres and their corsets and their suspender belts and their stockings. I'd cut them all out and save them in a secret hiding place. So you could say that I became a pervert from that moment on. Because, let's face it, that was 64 years ago. Now, here comes the scary part. Are you ready for this? Not only am I a transvestite, I'm also an atheist. Yes, oh, scary stuff. Sorry about the sunglasses, but I've got bags under my eyes that I'm a bit embarrassed about. So bear with me. Now, how come I'm an atheist? Well, I was never particularly interested in religion. I just couldn't get the hang of it. The idea that I was born in sin and some bloke who was murdered sprang back to life again, and provided I worship him, I'll get eternal life, but if I choose not to worship him, I will burn in hell for eternity. Not only did that not appeal to me, I just didn't like the sound of that at all. Oddly enough, I was more interested in sex. Yes, I was. Hard to believe, but it's true. Then I wouldn't say I became an atheist at that point, but early in the 1960s in Wales, I think it was 112 school children were crushed to death by a small mountain of coal slag that shifted and crushed their school. And I remember thinking at the time, if there is such a thing as a God, how come he didn't move the coal slag half an hour earlier before the children arrived at school? Or if he was that desperate to move the coal slag, how come he didn't wait till school was over? How come he waited until all the school children were sitting down at their desks, and then he decided now's a good time to move this mountain of coal and we'll crush all the children to death? That did it for me. I've never got over that. Then, back in the mid-1980s, I was lucky enough to meet Dr. Madeleine Murray O'Hair, founder of American Atheists. Dr. Madeleine Murray O'Hair convinced me of something I'd long since suspected, and that is that the Bible is a whole heap of shit, absolute garbage, nonsense. Furthermore, she taught me that Christians, fundamentalist Christians, evangelical Christians, are looking forward to nuclear war, global nuclear obliteration of all life on planet Earth except for them, the righteous ones.
The doomsday clock is seriously ticking. Designed to symbolise how close our planet is to annihilation, it now reads 100 seconds to midnight, the closest it's ever been. And it's all because of fears about nuclear war.
Well, the moment is serious. Tell me, how else can we tell people where we're at?
This is known as the end times, Armageddon, the rapture, when all the righteous ones will be sucked up into heaven, or halfway, just as Jesus happens to be plummeting down, and he will meet the righteous ones mid-sky, and then with a sword protruding from his mouth, he will flutter down the rest of the way and put paid to not only the great beast 666, but all the wicked ones who, as it happens, include me, and just possibly might include you. Now, since the 1980s, I've been studying the Bible, and I've learned a fair bit about it. I probably know more about the Bible than your average Christian. I even wrote a book about it. Here it is, the Little Red Bible Book. It must have sold all of, let me see now, about 12 copies. Ha! So, didn't hit the big seller list. That's because back in those days I had no idea how to promote it. But times have changed. I've got a few clues now. So I'm going to reformat this book, and then I'm going to have another shot at publishing it and selling it. Who knows? Even you might become interested when you realise just how much useful information there is in this book. Because here's something you might not be aware of. Very few Christians bother to read the Bible. They know next to nothing about the Bible. Okay, they remember the little bits about Adam and Eve, you know, talking snake, the serpent with no vocal cords who just happens to be speaking in fluent Hebrew. And they remember Noah's Ark, and they remember Joseph and his Technicolor anorak or whatever it was he was wearing at the time. They remember Jesus and his loaves and fishes, and Jesus bringing dead bodies back to life. Whoa! But the fact is, they're ignorant. I don't mean that in an insulting way, or maybe I do. They know next to nothing about their Bible. They know next to nothing about their religion. They just go along with it because that's how they've been taught. That's their brain fill. That's how they've been brainwashed to think. My plan is to put together 25 videos, one every 2 weeks. That'll take me, let me see now, 25 times 2, but guess what? 1 year. Who am I to teach you? Chances are you're far more educated than me. I'm just someone who left school the day he turned 15, joined the Merchant Navy as a deck boy. That's deck, by the way, with an E, not an I. But I spent a long time, what are we talking about now, 20, 35 something years studying the Bible. So I've got a few clues, and with your permission I'd like to pass this information on to you. So my next video will be all about the Bible, the dark side of the Bible. Stay tuned. By the way, in case you're wondering, this pretty little Japanese girl, she's not a prostitute. She works for a club where Japanese men pay mega yen, I don't know how much, quite a lot of money, just for female company, just for a hug or a cuddle. And I'm thinking, bloody hell, I'm lucky I lived in a time where I'll get better value for money. And so now I shall demonstrate my utter contempt for this ghastly book, the Bible, the Holy Bible. We spoke briefly about the end times, when Jesus plummets down from heaven to put an end to all life on planet Earth except for the righteous ones. They get that story from Revelations. Jesus with a sword protruding from his mouth. Yeah, and all the rest of it. So let's get to it. Tear out that. All that writing in red, that's Jesus speaking after he was dead. So tear that out. Another one, we'll tear that out. I won't tear it all out because there's much more to come about the book of Revelations. Trust me. Jesus wants me to burn to death for eternity for failing to worship him. So instead, I shall burn him, or at least the words of Jesus. At the end of every video, I will burn the relevant part from the Bible. Just like that. To hell with you, Jesus. Ha! I feel better now. That's what everybody should be doing to the Bible. The most ghastly, the most hideous, revolting, brutal, cruel book ever produced in the minds of evil men. People ask me, how come you have so much hatred for the Bible? And I respond, in the words of the late, great Thomas Paine, one of the bravest men ever to have lived, the Bible I hate it as I hate all things that are cruel.